The views and opinions expressed on Around the Town are entirely those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the faculty, staff, and students at Elizabeth City State University or ECSU Radio and Television Services.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Hez Brown. And now your host, Hezekiah Brown.
Good evening. This is Hez Brown, and we just thank you so much for tuning in to our program. We try to bring you the news that you can't get anyplace else. Now, we have today, and we're certainly honored to have our guest today. Well, we call her a special guest. That's what it is. But I'm not going to tell you who it is until I do just a little nugget to talk about some things that's really of importance to all of us. And I think that as we look at the world today, and I just keep reminding you and planting the seed and certainly hoping that the seed will grow and somebody else will have the vision to assist us in trying to find ways and means to reduce the violence, reduce the killings, reduce the psychological violence that's taking place in the world today. You know, the sad thing about all of this is that out of all the violence taking place, not just in our community, not just in the United States, but around the world, the real problem is that we don't find a lot of conversation about what to do about it. And that's the part that disturbed me. And certainly, I hope that's the part that disturbed you too. We have to someplace start to seek in ways and means to resolve disputes. Some of these things that's taking place can be resolved, but instead we resolve problems by using force or using the judiciary system. We have to find ways and means to solve problems through what I term the humanistic way to do it. And the humanistic way to do it is to teach and train folks how to resolve disputes. Let me just give you something that I think that you know, but I'm just going to remind you that this almost perpetrates the violence. Did you know that hate crime have increased 17% in the last year? Hate crime. So when hate crime increases, it means that other things come with it. Psychological violence, physical violence, and all these things come with it. Of the more than 7,100 hate crimes reported last year, nearly 3 out of 5 were motivated by race and ethnicity, according to the annual report. Most of them, there are others that's involved, racial and sexual. So we have to find some ways to try to address all of those things as we move along. Now, let's get to the real reason why we're here today, and that is to have a conversation. It's really not an interview. It really is a conversation with the chairperson. I gotta comment on that later because you have to watch what you say nowadays. A long time ago, when you said the chairman or the congressman, that was it. This is a new day, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But the chairperson of the Board of Trustees at ECSU, Miss Jan Robinson. Good evening, Miss Robinson.
Oh, good evening, Hez. Delighted to be here with you.
And we're delighted to have you. We're just so happy that you would take time out of your busy schedule to join with us today for this conversation because we're all so excited about all the things that's going on at ECSU. I mean, this is from the time I've been here 16 years now, but I have seen more progress, more innovation, more creativity in a long, long time since I've been here at this university. And it's still moving in the right direction. So again, you know, if you're on the board and things happen bad, you know, you take credit for that. But when you're on the board and things are happening as they are now, I know you have to be excited and elated, the same as I and the same as many people in this community.
I am excited. We're all excited. There is a critical force happening among us, not only at the university, but throughout the community and beyond around ECSU, and it's very energizing. But before I go on, I just want to take a minute to say thank you for all of the service that you have brought to this community in the 16 years you've been here, because I've been here for 21, and so I have been a part and watched and applauded all the great work you're doing, including the show. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, I know that a lot of folks know who you are, but I think that we can assume that everybody know. So tell us a little about you, married, and tell us a little bit about your children, because you don't get an opportunity to talk too much about them. But we don't know a little bit about your children. What are they doing?
righty. Well, I am married to Denalva Robinson, and we've been married for 36 years, been in the community for 21 years. Moved here from Mississippi with our daughter, who she was 6 at the time, and her son was 14. And they became enrolled in the school system here, and both their father and I are educators, and so poor children, they had education at school, and then they had education at home. You know, there's no running from that. And did well in our public school educational system, and went on and both became Moorhead Scholars, 7 years apart from each other. And each went on to UNC. Our son completed, became a lawyer. Our daughter left school early and decided her journey was to become an actor. And so she is now an actor out there in Chicago, and occasionally has a line or two on Chicago Med. So we run that back and forth. So that becomes like many more than 1 or 2 lines.
Wow.
Very proud of her. Yes.
That is so great. It is so
Exciting.
great.
Yeah.
You know, because I often say, and sometimes I get criticized for saying this, that if your children are not successful, then you're not successful, regardless of who you are. And so I'm sure, you know, your children are successful, so I know you can smile and you're just delighted.
It's a lot of family and community that helped those children be successful, so thank you for that. And it's part of the reason why my husband wanted to move to this community. He came from a small community in Quincy, Illinois, very small, rural, Midwestern community. I'm a city girl. I've traveled all over. My father was in the military. I didn't know about being in a small community and the treasures of the community that you find here. And he wanted our children to be grown up and raised in a small community. And
wait a minute. You said you came here from Mississippi. What
yes. Piney Woods, Mississippi.
I've never heard of that.
No, it's an hour from Jackson, the capital of Mississippi. And it's where one of our historically black boarding schools still resides and thrives. It's probably one of the very few that's still remaining, and it is a boarding school that takes children from the elementary school does not board, but from the middle school and high school, it is boarding. And they take kids from all over the country and parts of the world.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Because you say your husband came from Illinois, I guess it was. But as I said again, you know, I just didn't myself in my own vision see Mississippi. When I talked to the two of you, I didn't see that.
Spent 5 good years there.
Yeah, okay.
Got my badge for being Southern in Mississippi. So now I'm 25 years in the South.
Okay, wonderful. Yes. And you're still alive.
I'm right.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about education. I know, are you a lawyer?
I am a lawyer by training, and I practiced for only a few years. I've been in and out of healthcare and education for my whole professional life.
So where did you go to law school? Was it here?
I went to law school at University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
Mm-hmm. So as I said again, it's everybody always asks that question. You've answered it already, and we always raise this question. And sometimes it's kind of disturbing because people want to know if you are born and bred. That were you born and bred in Elizabeth City? If not, you always considered an outsider. But so we already told us that you was not born and bred here, but you've been here 21 wonderful years. So what did you do while you were here before you became on the Board of Trustees? We
moved here. My husband, we were brought here actually because of Elizabeth City State University. My husband was brought here as the Vice Chancellor of Institutional Advancement at the time. And I did not want to travel to Norfolk for a job, which is where I would have gone for a corporate job. And I was very fortunate. Dr. Jackson, George Jackson, invited me to come and teach a class here. And we were friends with the Coles, and Judge Cole encouraged me. So I taught business law for a semester, and then that morphed into a few more courses and a few more. And then I was full-time here as assistant professor and then became assistant dean of the School of Business. So 5 years, wonderful years, getting to know the community, but really more importantly, my heart were the students.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you went on to?
Then Dean Jackson, Dr. Jackson, he had a calling to see if we could take some of our courses to the corporate community. So we went to the hospital. We had a lot of people at the hospital who didn't have their undergraduate degree, so we thought we could teach those courses at the hospital. So I was the lead faculty member on that, and then the president said to me, do you have a business corporate background? And I'd come out of healthcare, worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for many years. And so she invited me to come to the hospital. And so I thought with my children well along in their respective areas of education that I could come to the hospital. So left the university and went in 2003 to work as the vice president of human resources for the hospital. Then that morphed into my area of operations, clinical services, and then about a year before I left, I was the interim president when we were trying to go through a transition there to a new owner of the hospital.
I just when I listen to you talk, I just get so excited about it because, that's the American dream. And the American dream is starting at a certain level and then becoming the top person at the hospital. And that's exactly what you did. You're the CEO, president of the hospital, running the place, at a tough time. It was not a good time when you were there doing that. So tell us, just a little bit about how did you work this out to go from the human resource person, from a professor at the university, to human resource person, and then CEO of the only hospital in Elizabeth City?
Well, my background was in healthcare, and I had been the vice president of a division of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Pennsylvania, and also a vice president of behavioral health for a division of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Maryland. So I had a fair amount of corporate experience in healthcare behind me, but not in chronic care. But with my legal background and my operational background, those were things that people could see were transferable to a chronic care, hospital situation. So, but when I came in, I was very fortunate. The president at the time, Sharon Tanner, had a vision that she wanted to change the culture of the hospital. And that had been one of my areas that I focused on. How do you get a sustainable culture, a vibrant, excellent culture in any business environment? And so we had a director of human resources, very, very strong in compensation analysis and all the bricks and mortar stuff that was not my area. But I was the bigger picture person. So we worked very well together. And then I came from operations, so she then moved me into operations and then into clinical services. And because I am a student first, like yourself, I immediately go and see what the leading practices are. And so then when I'm talking to the lab or the cancer center or to any of the other areas I had responsibility for, my challenge was that my content experts needed to be ahead of me because I'm reading. So tell me before I ask you. And so that kind of inquisitiveness and drive became noted. But I had a lot of backers, and I want to name two in particular. Mr. Cecil Perry and Mayor Betty Parker. Mm-hmm. They were both on the board at that time. And they were incredible members that gave me counsel and support so that I did not become disheartened, that they helped me to see when there was a possibility of becoming the president, the interim president, that was really, and I will say this, and I'm saying this publicly for the first time, when I wasn't sure that this was something that I should do because there was a lot of less than positive support, I'll say, Mayor Parker said to me, "This is not about you," and made me step back. She said, "You will be the first Black president in the history of this town at this hospital." And she said, "I remember when my family and my friends, my community members had to stay in the hallway because we didn't have access to rooms in this hospital.
Wow.
And now we have a chance for however long to have a Black leader. This is not about you." So it made me just wizen right up and say, thank you for that perspective. And so then I accepted the opportunity.
That's wonderful. And you did an outstanding job.
Well, I appreciate that.
As I said again, I was here and was watching, and it was very critical time for the hospital itself. And so to be in that position and be able to come out the way you did, it was just an incredible job. So I want to thank you for that, too, because that's the only hospital we have
Well,
here.
I appreciate that. I tell you, it was a whole team. I had a lot of folks around me. Thank you.
Right. So now you went through professorship and went through hospital. So are you employed now? Are you?
I have a small business. I have a yoga business. I call it the space in between. And so literally a few weeks after I left the hospital, I went and got certified. I'd been practicing yoga since I was 15. And I taught it here and there. But now that I was a woman of a certain age and I don't know, and I don't know, a posture that I decided I needed to get certified so that I could teach people across the age spectrum. Right. And so I did that, went away, and then came back, taught at our local Body Connect studio, and then opened up a home studio. So
where's your business located? Is it downtown?
I was downtown until recently, and now I have moved my classes to my home studio. So I've doing a little less teaching because of my greater involvement now with ECSU.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, you have came a long ways from Mississippi and all those places, but I just wanted to talk a little bit now about your current position and being. As I said again, being the first at anything is always great, But by the same token, in this era where we are finding that females are moving into more and more positions of prominence, in a sense, you are the first African American female to serve as chairperson of the board of trustees. How do you feel about that?
Yes, sir. Well, it's a tremendous privilege for us to ever become the first of something. And then there's a relativity in which we look at that it took 128 years for this to happen. Mm-hmm. But however long it took, it did happen. And I'm very appreciative of my fellow trustees and those trustees that came immediately before me that supported me and encouraged me to do this. So it is special.
Let's talk about this chancellor.
Yes.
Let's talk
on fire.
That's what I say. A woman on fire.
She is a woman on fire.
Unbelievable in terms of what have happened in a relatively short period of time.
That's right.
And the sky is when you say the sky is the limit, under her leadership, tell us a little bit about how you work with her and what she's doing.
Alrighty.
And what do you, go ahead, tell us a little bit about
I will
this.
tell you, I love the metaphor that the sky is the limit since we are the aviation program here in the state. But the sky is the limit. Dr. Dixon came here already knowing this university because of her position as Vice President of Academic Affairs for the system. She came here already knowing where the resources were within the system. So she was, I feel, I have to use the word, ordained. It was meant for her to come here with all of her particular talents and skills and networks. So she came here on fire because she was excited. And then she learned who we were and what the potential was and was able to pull and put her hands on people that she knew who could help build and bring in people on an interim basis, get the audits and the assessments done, and still maintain the vision knowing that we got a long way to go. But there are things that we can do in the short term that engage people, the students, the community, that we are turning a corner. And it catches us all on fire. So it really is, and I have to compliment the leadership of UNC to see that in her and also the Board of Governors, that she was the person for this time. And it's wonderful because it doesn't always mean that you're selected, but when it's just, that's why I feel it's ordained. When that spirit is put in different folks to see this is the person for this time to move this school forward for the folks that it serves, and it happens. We have to get out the way sometimes, right, for things to happen.
Let it go.
That's right. Thank you. Amen.
I think about that. I think the entire community is excited by seeing a young woman. Sometimes older people think youth gets in your way. But I just watch her as she navigate this system itself. And bring the other navigators along with her.
That's right.
Then it means that terminology about the sky's the limit,
That's
it's really
exactly
there.
Right.
In contrast to in previous years, I don't want to call any names, but in previous years, I've been here long enough to see the university enrollment reach over 3,000.
Yes, I remember.
And still growing.
That's right.
And then I saw the quick turnaround where we ended up with half of the 3,000. What is the Board of Trustees looking at that and saying, now what do we do to make sure that we don't go back to
That's right.
that 1,500, that 1,400?
That's right.
And we move ahead. What is there anything on the horizon?
Absolutely. Well, first, that of course is being led by the Chancellor and her team. And the Board of Trustees are saying, okay, we've looked at what has happened. Many of us were here in the community or on the board as those things happened. And it was the system not looking at all of their schools equally through a fair set of eyes as to what was going on. Because if we're a part of a system, particularly in the business world, you don't get to fail but so much.
Right.
Because we're watching all of the measurements. So the eye was taken off for whatever reasons. We don't have to go down that path. But they were not watching. They were not attentive to what was going on over a number of years. When we got the attention of the system through the administration of Margaret Spellings and Harry Smith, the Board of Governors chair at that time, they got it like that. So much so that Governor Smith said, we allowed this to happen. And when you have that kind of ownership, then it galvanizes your Board of Trustees. Okay, now new day, let's start. Mm-hmm. What are those things we can do to make sure and ensure that this doesn't happen to our school or any other school within the system? Because we become integrated. You're looking at the measurements across the board. You're seeing where the strengths are at other schools so that you can get that expertise as a sister school and then continue to grow. Just as we have strengths here that they can come and take advantage of.
And I read recently in the paper where the projection is, I guess, in 5 years, the university is looking to somewhere in the neighborhood over 3,000 again.
That's our capacity, yes.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so will the Promise program help that program along the way, you think?
Well, as you know, we don't have that Promise program for a certain amount of years.
Not Promise forever?
It's not a promise forever. So we are working hard to make sure we're doing what we call a prosperity analysis, looking at what level of enrollment we have to have, what kinds of programs we have to have, what kind of investments and grants and corporate sponsorships, and we call them P3, public-private partnerships that we have to have in place so we become sustainable. Sustainable not just in maintaining, but growing, continuing to grow. While we may have capacity for 3,000 students, we still have capacity to grow our programs and enrich our programs and experiences for our students and our faculty and staff. So those are things that we are looking at. And what's that analysis? What kinds of funds and where do those funds need to come from?
Yeah. You know, Jan, this the university, it has so much to offer. And I just look at the things that's taking place, here. The program that excites me more than anything else I've seen in my life is the aviation science program.
I know, that's the one, right?
I mean, it is just something that I wish this community could embrace, but not only that, but understand it. And I think the reason a lot of folks don't understand it because they haven't been here, haven't visited the university to take a look at this aviation science program.
Right.
And being the only university in the state to have this kind of program. It is incredible. So how do we keep that program?
Well, one, have you been to the simulator lab yet?
Yes.
You've flown the plane. Okay, that's where I thought all that excitement was coming from. So you've been in that metaphoric air, right? You've been up there. Okay.
Right.
Well, what's exciting is that program has grown by leaps and bounds just within the year that our chancellor has been formally in place. I think when she came here, maybe we had 3 planes. Now we have over 11. So it's remarkable. Everybody that comes to that lab gets excited and they see. So it is a kind of impetus on our part as the Board of Trustees and everybody here within the community to continue to invite people. Come see, walk into the lab, talk to our students, see what we're doing here, and also impacting the fact that we've got a major downturn in pilots because of the ages. We're aging out. And we have an opportunity to grow those pilots, and particularly those pilots of color and of gender. Mm-hmm. So it's a tremendous opportunity to make a huge impact on aviation, period. And of course, we're right here next to the Coast Guard, so they're involved. We've got the Navy up there. And I just learned that the Army even has an aviation program, and we've got an Army ROTC. So there's all this wonderful kismet, opportunities happening.
I think what I find unique about the aviation program is that you are preparing students for jobs that's available.
That's
they can
right.
walk out of the classroom into jobs,
right,
and just go and make a lot of money. What I'm saying.
Well, there's that too. Yes, that's right.
So, and then I heard you say I was unaware of this, but I want you to say it again. That we had 3 planes. How many do you have now?
11.
11. It's like an airport.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And
But that's
right.
Yeah, and for students to be exposed to be able to become pilots, you say again, it's a demanding job, So if once you get your pilot license, you know what I mean, you're going to start from the bottom and work up, but it's something that you can do, and it pays a good salary.
It's a good salary, and also it's not the only area in aviation. So you have not only your being able to fly the plane, but you've got aeronautics management, you've got the drones, and the drones can be used for so many things in science and security, all kinds of
and air traffic controller jobs.
Air traffic controllers.
Those jobs, you walk in the door, $65,000 and $70,000 on those jobs.
That's
when you
right.
walk out there.
That's
so it's. I tell you what, I equate the aviation program to what a law school degree. As you know, as a lawyer, you can practice any kind of law you want, and it's all across the board to 100 things you can do.
Right.
But the aviation program, I equate the two of them because when you walk out of there with that aviation science degree, there's so many things that's available to you that you can do.
That's very
so
true.
Congratulations. I hope that this stays because in the back of my mind, and I can say this, the pharmacy program, again, it was one of the things that I was just blown away when it came.
Yes.
But we let it get away. So this is something we can't let go.
No. The chancellor and her team are all about it. They're all on it.
Okay. I want to just Jen, it's so nice talking to you because you're so knowledgeable in terms of what's going on. I know that under your leadership that we're going to do big and better things, creative things. You practice thinking out of the box. You practice being innovative and creative and have a great team of trustees now, a great team of administrators that we can't fail. We just said the sky is the limit. But and I just was observing what happened recently. It is my understanding that the university will be receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $5.2 million to do repairs that happened during Dorian.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It really was amazing that we happened to have a new trustee who used to be a legislator here in North Carolina, and he took it upon himself to just investigate to see if there might be a possibility, even though it was out of cycle, and he didn't even mention it. He just wanted to see, and then once things started picking up, he said, I think I have an opportunity for us to get some funds that can help repair the buildings that took a hit during Dorian. And he worked through with several different of our legislators. I believe one was Wayne Bell and then Representative Steinberg. And they were able to make it work so that we were able to get this special allocation, first time in the history of ECSU to get a special allocation. And it just makes all the difference. So it's that kind of initiative among so many of our trustees trying to figure out how can we capitalize, how can we work relationships, because everything at the end of the day is about relationships and good relationships, regardless of your political bent. It's just how can we continue to work together for the good, the greater good.
But Jan, you just said something, and this is one of the things that I try to talk to young people about: the importance of relationships. Everything is about relationships. It's about. I'm
sitting here today because you and I met 16 years ago.
Okay. Relationships,
and we kept running into each other.
That's
right.
That's right. But I'm just saying, if we could just use that as a basic bottom line. You don't treat people bad because you have the ability to do it, because you never know where you're going to see a person again, So you have to try to treat people the way you want to be treated, because it could be 10 years, it could be 15 years, and you run into that same person again. And we have to start to plant this seed in our young people's mind that
be kind to everyone.
We don't need to get anybody back. You know what I mean?
That's right. Life's too short.
Either God or the devil will get them. You don't need to get them.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
But anyway, Jan, this is the last question, and you can answer this. Tell us, Jan, what is Jan Robinson? What are you passionate about?
I am passionate about learning and students. I will spend the rest of my life, no matter what, being involved with educating myself and younger people. Anybody who's interested in learning new things. So it's where I stay. I'm really delighted to be a part of the Board of Trustees because it keeps me involved with education. Teaching my yoga classes keeps me involved with learning not only about ancient sciences, but the Western science, which I love the way the two merge. And it just informs my life, makes it brighter, keeps me really humble because there's just so much still to learn. So I'm just a curious person, and I invite students all the time as I spoke at commencement, just stay curious and kind. Don't forget kind.
Don't
and
forget.
kind.
That's true. So Jan, I mean, I am just delighted, and again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and tell us about this train ride we are on.
We are on it.
I mean, we're on it. You know what I mean? And being able to give this information to the community, because I pointed out earlier that here on Around Town with Hez Brown, you get the news that you can't get anyplace else.
All right.
So I just want to say thank you and wish you and your family Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and so on. And we are pleased that you serve as a chairperson of the Board of Trustees at ECSU. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hez, and Merry Christmas to you and your wonderful family.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Around the Town with Hez Brown, recorded and produced at WRVS-FM Studios on the campus of Elizabeth City State University. If you are interested in becoming an underwriter for this show, call 252-335-3985.